All right, thank you everyone for joining. The purpose of this discussion is to, I guess, investigation to what happened and how we can prevent this type of thing from happening in the future, so that we can establish, I guess, reasonable bylaws, so that people can have a predictable experience. Because while we're going to assume that there was no malicious intent by the people here, and I really appreciate everyone showing up to address the situation. If it had been malicious or careless, then we need to have policies as a community to really protect the integrity of what we're trying to do. Because the whole idea of Eden is to reach subjective consensus on things, and to hold people accountable, because people are voluntarily agreeing to join a community to reach consensus and to abide by the bylaws. And anyone who's not willing to voluntarily agree to the process, which includes, having some integrity to your word, that is someone who's not really, shouldn't be in the community any longer, if that is the case. So obviously this is the first time. There's no precedent on how to handle this type of situation, and the people involved have long reputations in the community. So we obviously don't want to special case this every time in the future, but this is a really good opportunity to figure out how can we improve the UI, how can we make sure that people know what's expected of them, so that there's very little room for other people in the future to claim I didn't understand or so on. So that's the purpose. And then once we've established, figure out exactly what went wrong and why, we can figure out, well, how can we remedy this particular situation in a voluntary, mutual agreed fashion? And then in the future, how do we remedy it and disincentivize it from happening? Because if we don't disincentivize it, then eventually somebody's going to go and say, watch me do this, and what are you going to do about it? There's always the what are you going to do about it attitude, and we need to, as a community, show we're not going to allow carelessness on to go unchecked and uncorrected in the community. So that's my brief introduction to the call. Now, obviously, I guess let's start with each of you, and could you explain your experience with the process and where you think things went wrong on your end?
Yeah, for sure. I can start. I invited Michael. I went through the process a few times, so I've read all the requirements, understood the seriousness of looking over the profiles before you endorse it. And this one, I reached out, asked some favors, got 2 witnesses to get on board in kind of short order. Told Michael about the Eden. Told him, hey, this is something you really should look into, and we should get you on board as soon as we can. But I'll take full responsibility. I rushed through it and obviously didn't verify his profile before going to endorse. I think it was just on that screen that kind of was waiting for his profile to pop up, and I honestly, I don't even think I looked through his details and just went to the next step. So so as the person that's was responsible for getting Michael the information of all the different things that you needed a picture, introduce yourself over on the Eden community. Yeah, that was all born on me, and I think it was just I don't think it was just I just rushed it. So it was carelessness on my part, and kind of reached out to the 2 witnesses as a favor to get this done. So I was careless, and I just rushed through it. So
yeah. Well, I guess I can go next. I mean, I first off want to apologize to everybody because you're having to take time away from many important other things to deal with this. Although happy to, I guess, be the poster child for the first level of let's work it out, right? So I can assure you that, you know, there was absolutely no malicious intent. It really is just, as many of you may know, I mean, I've always just used our BP logo as my representation. So I totally understand that, you know, that's not exactly the purpose of the passport NFT, whatever you want to kind of call that membership. So happy to, you know, agree to whatever it'll take to remedy it. You know, obviously very familiar with the Eden concept and been around EOS since launch. So like I say, I mainly just apologize for everybody for triggering additional work that we could all probably do without.
Is there anything in particular that you think could have made things more clear to you to prevent this from happening?
So I did. I mean, I always try, you know, well, obviously I bear the full burden of it, even more so than anybody else. I was the one that filled it all out. But so I tried to, you know, run back through, and obviously I'm 20,000 things, so I wasn't probably paying as much attention as I should. But I tried to run back through and see, you know, when I read the peace treaty, I mean, I guess it didn't stand out blatantly, you know, that it had to be a picture of me. Obviously, I should infer, you know, identity verification aspect of it. And as I had mentioned, you know, I mean, even just on that submission form is just a reminder of, hey, this needs to be a picture of you. and even if, you know, worded as don't use an animated picture, don't use a pixelated picture, you know, I mean, giving a little bit of guideline just to smack those that may not be paying as much attention as they should, as, you know, just a simple oversight. But I mean, it had larger ramifications. So just in hindsight, you know, I mean, that doesn't mean
it doesn't help that your username is I break your shit.
It's funny you should mention that, but I mean, honest to God, you can look at the blockchain doesn't lie. That has always been my username, and as you can see, I am a bull in a china shop. I just, no matter what I do, I you know how many times I've broken, you know, I mean, your guys say I have an uncanny ability, or the Block One guys say I have an uncanny ability to even break EOS.io uniquely. So there are bugs that are titled EOS USA bugs. So
nice. Max, you want to fill us in on how we can improve the process as a witness and what
definitely.
your
I went through the process and I thought it was kind of odd he had a different picture, but I'm like, oh, like he'll be able to fix this. I think I just expected that there would be a change in it. So I think, I mean, I'm totally at fault as well for just kind of rushing through it. I definitely didn't review his information, just knowing how technically competent he is, because I'm, you know, he's also a friend, and we work with him closely on various projects. And so just rush through it. I think having some system like it to check the picture, some interface thing, just to be like, is this really the person, how they look today? I remember at the, like, even with other profiles, like I know some of these people in real life and they don't look like that, or their picture is like really outdated. So I think even having a stricter image policy, like I know some people use Photoshop on their images. So maybe, having some other image verification system, and clarifying that too, for that it should match up with their representation, their NFT to some extent.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily opposed to photoshopping to add logos or whatnot, as long as you capture the likeness of the person in the image. So that's the main goal there, but also, having something that's relatively recent and that you could pair up with the video. I think at some point in the future, we could even use software to detect, hey, we don't detect a face in this. So at the very least, it has to be a face. I guess it's, it's clear that the witnesses and validators. The reason why we have them is because we thought that, well, if we have 4 eyes on the NFT, that mistakes won't get through. And so we need to make sure, I guess, that the UI clearly has you like check all the things you're supposed to check. And we can do a little bit more automation on it from a software side. Obviously, we're going as fast as we can to get this done. And I appreciate you guys using the beta software in the state, but yeah, thank you, Max. Edgar?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of that's been said. I think, you know, in my case, this was probably my second induction as a witness, and I've only been a witness. So I wasn't, you know, extremely familiar, but I thought the UI was, you know, pretty straightforward. Although in this particular case, I kind of went straight to the name and to his profile, the information, and to the links. I can't really recall if even the image loaded in time when I scroll down, especially when you're the last witness to endorse. You know, you've already seen, you know, Duane was the invitee. He had a green check mark. Max was an invitee, has a green check mark. I'm kind of like the third, and I still check, and I want to make sure that, you know, the name that was in the Eden card was who the person was on the video. And I didn't really look at the profile pic either because it didn't load in time for me, or maybe I just scrolled through it because I remember wanting to read. I like reading the actual info on the profile. So I think, you know, in terms of improvement, definitely having the guidelines of what the picture should be. For example, I just saw someone, you know, has dark sunglasses, hat, you know, yeah, it's a picture of them, but, you know, are we going to get into trouble later because we endorse someone that, you know, can't really verify because it just has dark sunglasses? Or so maybe just including like picture, like, you know, it has to be clear. You can't be wearing, you know, a disguise. I can't be, you know, wearing like a fake nose or something in my picture. Similar to what you would see in a KYC verification for like Persona or, you know, some of these softwares that already check. It just kind of says like, if you got glasses, like take your glasses off. Or if you got a hat, like, you know, make sure some sort of thing that, you know, because I could see this also being a gray area. Clearly with Michael and the BP logo, that's not gonna fly. But at what point does it fly when you have kind of, you're wearing a mask and dark sunglasses and a hat, right? I mean, are we gonna let that through? So I think just having some guidelines right in the right now there's a check the box. I have read the, you know, I endorse this person. I think there should be just right underneath the picture, you know, does this picture fit with these characteristics? You know, you can clearly identify the person. It's not endorsing, you know, I don't want to like, you know, Coca-Cola to be in the background or something like, you know, a trademark that might be infringing some trademark later, and that you can visibly identify the person. I think that would really help, especially since as a witness, sometimes you don't feel like you have somewhat of the authority to kind of say, hey, you know, this doesn't work when the two other guys already pushed it through. So I think also
I think the idea is that it's everyone's responsibility to make sure that no fraud and no mistakes are made to the best of their ability. And so just because 2 other people approve it doesn't mean the third person is not valuable. That they're there because the other 2 people might have screwed something up, and it's really just about all accountability, right? We all assume that, okay, mistakes can happen, but they shouldn't happen in force, you know, or they should be exceedingly rare. And so that's really a mindset issue that each person involved in this process is taking it upon themselves to be, I guess, personally liable, whatever we just determine the consequences should be for certain types of mistakes that should be objectively verifiable. For example, if the person's face on the NFT does not look like the person in the video, right? They should be, you know, you don't want to use a supermodel on your on your profile pic, just because it meets all the other characteristics of being a person. And quite frankly, if that's what Michael had done, might have been more difficult to catch. All right. And so the reason we have the witnesses is to catch things like this and to know that there's at least 3 members of the community in good standing that have reviewed and are certifying that, hey, all the rules, all the checks, everything that we're going for is followed, and so that we can maintain the integrity. And if, because, you know, if 3 people are willing to collude, they can invite as many people as they want, and then the community has to clean it up once everyone else in the community finds out what happens, and then those 3 people get removed, and we try to like prevent it from happening. So it's a big deal when there's a mistake that involves 3 people, 3 existing members in good standing, allowing another member in. And in this case, we can be reasonably sure that there was no malicious intent. But in other cases, particularly as the community grows from 100 to 1,000 or maybe 10,000, it's just going to be, you know, no one's going to know the people involved to a good enough extent to say, okay, yeah, this was, you know, they've got other reputation in the community. They've done a lot for a long time. We know they had no intent and there's some kind of mistake, but that's the goal, is for, and maybe we should highlight for the witness that, hey, this is important. And if there is a mistake, like any of these things happen, then this is the cost to stay in the community, right? You can either leave the community for your mistake, or you can compensate the community for having to fix it. In this particular instance, the fix that I'm going to propose is that everyone involved burn the NFT, so the NFT no longer exists, and Michael creates a new EOS account, and you do a whole new membership and bring him in, and then we will have Michael, the I break your shit account, voluntarily resign. That would clean up, because you can't take back the NFT unless it's burned. And if it's all done voluntarily, now we can fix the process and move forward. Because that just, what do you guys think of that proposed solution?
Yeah, I
great.
think that's great. Yeah, I think also having going forward, having some continuity in the profile pictures, because I had a few individuals that I invited into Eden. They weren't sure if they could like change their profile picture in the future or not. So I think it needs to be clear that it's more like a passport photo or like a ID picture rather than a traditional profile picture. Because I think just saying it's a profile picture on most platforms, you can alter it in the future. So I think calling it something different. Yeah.
From the user aspect, I remember, and one of the reasons I was just kind of banging through it, you know, it says you can always go back and edit your profile information, which of course is referring to the text fields that are related to the profile. So, you know, I was just kind of banging through it, and yeah, I'll go back and flesh it out later, but not thinking or realizing, you know, hey, this is about to get smashed into an NFT. So that was a little, in hindsight, yeah.
Yeah, it's you can edit it until that final step when the NFT is minted. And that might not have been clearly communicated. And I know it's like a lot of pressure. Like, I want to get this done. I don't have time to like get the perfect picture and get all this other stuff. But that's why we have accountability to say, whoa, slow down, get this right, and then you can become a member. Not, hey, I don't care about what's going on and so forth. So I guess it's really a mindset that as we're inviting people into this, that we say, hey, we're going to take the time, we're going to do this right. And that will be demonstrating to those outside the Eden community, hey, we can actually do some good stuff as a large group of people and maintain subjective quality. Because that's what everyone is waiting for. It's like, if we can't trust people to maintain quality with simple things, how are we going to maintain quality with how money is spent? Right? It's, if people, you know, this is serious intent here, and we should have fun, of course, but it's definitely that attitude. So the effective consequence I see from this is you have to sign up again, which is, I guess, another Eden donation. And other than that, you're still allowed to be part of the community, and everyone's NFT gets burned, and we're in good shape. So the question is, what things can we do in the future to simplify, to make this, to drive home the importance to people of making sure they check on things and they know what the consequences are going to be, and to incentivize people outside the initial 3 to double check. So, hey, look, a new NFT was minted, right? There should be like some kind of bounty opportunity for anyone in the community who wants to can go and check. And if they're the ones that identify, hey, the links to Telegram don't work. For example, I don't think your Telegram account that you put in your profile was accurate. So not only did the image not work, the Telegram link was to a bogus Telegram account.
But I think it had an @ symbol in it was the problem. It's legitimately my account. I mean, I was getting tagged, but I think the @ symbol throws it out of whack. So, I mean, maybe, even on the form to trim the trailing @ symbol, since that would break the link. And okay. I know the community forum was also mentioned. I'm registered. That's my account. It won't let me log in because it won't send me the email. So, I mean, I'll keep fighting to get through that. But, okay. So, but yeah, look, broken regardless.
Yeah, I was just pointing out that if there's verifiable facts that come out that, hey, these things aren't right, the person who discovers it should be rewarded. So everyone in the community has incentive to double check, and all the witnesses know that there are other eyes that are looking for these things. And in that situation, there would be a process where someone would file a challenge to a particular user, and then there would be some kind of jury that would be assembled that would evaluate the facts. And then if the jury concludes that, yes, indeed, the witnesses failed to vet the new user, the new user account is automatically removed, and then there's some consequence for the witnesses. And if it's a repeat offense, then it can kind of escalate, right? Hey, this witness is always allowing people through that use logos instead of faces, and they're always working together. Maybe the whole bunch needs to be removed from the community. But at the very least, there should be I think some kind of cost that was compensating. So I think if someone finds a mistake, then the 3 witnesses who approved it should compensate the person who found the mistake, as sort of the way of funding the bounty and giving seriousness to what they're doing, and rewarding the people who are actually looking for the mistakes and doing the work that the witnesses were supposed to do in the first place. So I guess my thinking there is that whatever the new user registration fee is, if it's 10 EOS, then the consequence for a mistake in the profile page is caught by someone else, as each of the witness pays the person who finds it 10 EOS. And now we've got a 30 EOS bounty on finding mistakes, and everyone involved would then, they'd acknowledge when they're checking this box, if someone finds it, you will be expected to pay 10 EOS, or you'll be asked to leave the community if you choose not to pay. And then in that way, everyone knows that, hey, there's actually costs. There's socialized costs to individualized actions when people aren't fulfilling their duty in each of the roles. What do you guys think of that kind of system?
Yeah, makes sense. One question would be, I mean, obviously, since it was my mistake and my causing, I mean, can I cover those bounty, or would that be, I don't know, considered frowned upon?
Well, at the end of the day, there's no way to prove that somebody didn't pay it through the, pay off the witnesses, right? The witness says, hey, I was trusting you, and so I didn't check. I expect you to pay me for the fine I had to pay. And if you choose to pay it and fund it, then you could do that. There's no way anyone would ever know that. I think that we should, at the very least, from the code perspective, require the transfer to come from each individual party. And then if it's compensated on the back end, that's kind of outside of the control of the process. So I think that's a reasonable way to hold people accountable. And then we also have documented proof of these are the people, and this is how many times they paid fees to bounties. So I think that's what I'm going to propose. I'll work with the Clarion team to implement the ability to challenge and so forth. In the interim, we're going to do this voluntarily. We'll have soft rules for it, and we can go to the Telegram channel and you can just challenge right there in the channel, and we'll expect voluntary compliance, and we'll figure it out from there. But we'll eventually get all the processes and bylaws encoded into the smart contract and clearly communicated. At the very least, we'll update the UI to indicate when you do this check mark, if anything is wrong, you will be expected to pay X, just so that people are aware of the consequences of their duty to validate the information involved, and I'll make it really clear.
Yeah, I think charging or having a fee for errors or omissions or something is great. It holds people accountable, makes them have more skin in the game if they want to continue to be part of the community. And my question was, is there a current part or somewhere in the smart contract that people can unregister, or is it just based on currently just on burning one's own NFT?
There should be an unregister capability. We might not have a button to unregister, but I'm going to get the voluntary compliance aspects of this done as quickly as possible, so that there's a burn button right on the UI, so you can just burn the NFT if you have it without having to go to Atomic Hub or figure anything else out. You can resign from the community immediately without having to do anything, so that we'll get those UI elements updated so that it's easy to voluntarily comply with the subjective processes, such as a jury. And then once we get a little bit more mature, we'll have cryptographically verifiable jury selection, so to make sure that it is a random subset of the community, potentially involving where all the jurors are at least level 1 representatives. And so that part of being a level 1 representative, which means you went through an election and you got picked by your one group. Part of that job is that when there is a dispute, you're available to participate in the jury when you're randomly selected. That way we kind of vet the jurors a little bit and then use randomness to protect it. These are all things that we're evolving to move forward. But the idea is, hey, all this stuff is subjective and there needs to be handled on a case-by-case basis. And we don't want a bunch of arbitrary rules or unpredictable outcomes. And of course, the first time anything happens, it's going to seem arbitrary and unpredictable, and we need to have a little bit more grace. But as we advance and what's expected is clearer, and then we can be a little bit more strict. So I want to thank everyone for taking the time to show up to discuss this particular issue, and for agreeing to the process. So just to confirm that we have everyone's consent, we're going to burn the NFTs, resign the USA account, and then re-invite them back as a new member.
Yep. So I need, action items. I need to burn the NFT, and I also, there's no interface for it, but I can go and find the contract action, and there is an unregister or resign action.
I do not know exactly what's there or not, but I'm going to have a call with my team to make sure that that we are ready to get this done as soon as possible.
Yeah, let me know whatever process or action I need to fire. Or like I say, I'll do it via Clio. So just let me know. But happy to do so, and appreciate the opportunity to right my wrong.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone showing up and treating this with respect and taking responsibility. So just if you agree to the proposed solution, just go ahead and say I agree.
Agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
All right, so unanimous consent. We'll get this done. Thank you, everyone, for showing up, and I'm excited to see we have such interest in making Eden work. So thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
See you.
Awesome. Have a good day.
See you guys.